My name is Char McCargo Ba. I was born as Charlene McCargo, and I grew up in Alexandria in the Parker Gray district area. I was born in Alexandria as well. My parents came from Halifax County, Virginia. Both my parents, my father came from the Scottsboro area of Halifax, and my mother came from the Turbsville part of Halifax, which borders Pennsylvania County. They migrated here in 1950s to Alexandria. They got married in 1956, and I was born in 1957. I'm the oldest of five children, and I went to school, elementary school, first in Halifax County because my mother had children like every year or so, and she couldn't walk me to school, so she sent me to my grandmother in Halifax County. And and from Halifax County, I spent 1 year in a Rosenwald school, a two-room school. And then I came back to Alexandria, and my sister after me, we both attended Charles Houston, holding hands, going down the street to go to school. And while I was in elementary school, when we had history classes, now Charles Houston was an all African American elementary school. It was segregated during the years I, I attended. The only thing I knew about African American history was a one-liner. We were brought here as slaves. That's all. Turn the page. George Washington. And that's the way it was. I didn't really get into African American history until later on, just a little bit before I attended college. I went to, from Charles Houston, I went to Parker Gray when Parker Gray was a seventh and eighth grade school. They closed the high school in 1965, and anyone who attended there after that, it was a seventh and eighth grade. From Parker Gray, I went to George Washington. George Washington was the ninth and 10th grade, and I attended George Washington. Then I went to T.C. Williams, 11th and 12th. And while I was at T.C. Williams, one of my teachers, who was a white American, noticed that I did not like to read out loud. And so she asked me to stay after class, and she talked to me, and she said, what books do you like to read? I said, I like to read about people, which was memoirs and biographies and autobiographies. And so she ordered me books, especially for me. She ordered me these Scholastic books, and they were all about different people. Arthur Ashe was the first African American I ever read a book about. And from there, it sparked my interest. By the time I graduated, I ended up joining the Doubleday reading book club, and I would read about 5 books a month. And I read and I read. I decided to go to college. I got married very early at 17, and continued school like all other kids. And then when I graduated from TC, I didn't go to college right away. I ended up working for the federal government. And then I got mad at something they did. I got mad at them or something. I said, I'm going to college. I took the entrance exam and got accepted, and resigned from the federal government, got a part-time job, and went to school full-time. I was already a mother then. I had my daughter, and she was about 3 or 4 years old when I started college. And so what happened is that I completed my undergrads. I had a double major. I completed them within 3.5 years because I was taking like 12 to 14 credit hours. In the summer, I would go and take 9 credit hours. I knew I couldn't play around because I was a mother, and I knew I had to hurry up and get it, or I might not get it. And so anyway, while I was in college, and I got I minored in African American studies. My main major was urban studies, which consists of a lot of research, communities, and everything. And then the African American studies is really what blew my mind. A lot of things I did not know. And I really ended up studying myself and the history of African Americans. After graduation, I got accepted among Muslim women, gave me a scholarship for a semester, and I studied at I think it was Georgetown University. I studied international, and I didn't really like that much. So I decided I went back to the federal government, and I worked there for several years until I decided to go back in private industry, and I worked at the World Bank. And so I got interested in other cultures as well, and I used my knowledge about African Americans and compared it to other cultures, found out that we are not that different. We have similar likes, and similar behaviors and everything. And unless you talk to other people, you don't know that. Unless you're around other cultures, you don't know that. And so I got interested in that. And then an opportunity came for me to go to Sierra Leone. My husband is from Sierra Leone, and I never met my in-laws, and my daughter never met her grandparents over there. And so we left in, I think it was in 1987. We left and to Sierra Leone, and everybody kept saying, "Oh, you're going to feel like you're not in place, that it's not your place." It was a blast. I act like I never left there. So when I got there, I had studied the culture so much because I fell in love with history from the time I started it. And I went there, it was like nobody even knew I was an American. Not until I was coming back that somebody guessed that I was an American. And they did not even know that. I knew so much about life. My grandmother, my mom's mother, who I stayed with when I was younger, she had so many ways that it was like the same as the people that I lived around. When I lived with my grandmother in the South during the 60s, she had outside toilet. I was outside toilet there. I mean, it was like, like I never left, really. I got along with the people. I learned to pick up the language a bit, but more so it's how you treat people, and that is very important. You can go all over the world, but it's how you treat people, and many of them treated me like I was family. I can say, going back in time, that when Alex Haley came out with Roots, I was in college at that time, and I got the book, and I would read it at work. I was working part-time because I went back to the government as a part-time employee because I was in school full-time. And I remember being in the bathroom reading a chapter, and someone came in and hollered my name, and the book fell into the toilet. And I was like, oh my God, oh my God. The person felt sorry for me, and they brought me another book and so I can finish it. But I was so captivated by how he was able to research, never knowing that we could do that. Never thought that African Americans can really research their people. So I started doing genealogy in 1981, and I took every class I could take. I went to every conference I could go to. I belonged to several genealogical societies. I joined the Virginia Genealogical Society, the African American Historical Genealogical Society, the National Genealogical Society, the Historical Society in Halifax County, the Genealogical Society in North Carolina. I mean, I had so many of them, I couldn't keep up with them, but every place I thought my people could have been, I joined them. And I just became, to this day, I've been doing it 7 days a week. I haven't stopped. Every day I have to review something, read something, genealogical wise, research something, and it has been a very fulfilling profession for me. Not knowing about your people, not knowing your place in history. And once you know your place in history, you can see some of the things that you can improve on, why people do this and why people do that. I believe that a lot of things that some African American children fall into, if they knew who they were. I can tell you that personally because in my family, when I found certain things about our family and at our reunions, I when I told the family, you see the kids, their eyes like they were busting open. Like nobody thought they had heroes in the family. Nobody thought they had people who were significant in anything. I found a Buffalo Soldier. We never knew about that we had a Buffalo Soldier. My brother, who's deceased now, went out, ordered a reenactment Buffalo Soldier uniform and joined the Buffalo Soldier, some kind of group they have. And he was just as proud, but he couldn't remember all the details, called me on the phone as he bragging about our ancestor, and he said, "What was his name again?" And what did he do? And just like, and he was so proud. And then I remember in family reunion we had down in Halifax County, I one of the field trips was at one of the churches. Really was a cemetery. I wanted to take them, and nobody said, "Oh God, how are we going to go to the cemetery? Oh well, we don't want. What are we going to do at the cemetery?" I said, "You haven't been to a cemetery until I take you there." And so when we got to the cemetery, I was able to call the names of every one of them who were buried there that were related to us, and I had a story to tell on each one of them, and I got those stories from the older people that I had interviewed before they died, and so. Before I knew it, they would run into headstones. Are we related to this person? Are we related to do you know anything about this person? And they really, really enjoyed that. And so I was able to witness, not just in my family, I started taking clients in 1990. And I did it free for about 10 years, 10 to 15 years. I actually did it free. And I had clients all over Mississippi, Alabama, Arkansas, Georgia, and different places, and I actually saw how they came alive, knowing who they are. Now, some of them hired me specifically for a certain thing. They want to know about the land that the family said they once had, or they want to know whether they are Native Americans and this and this and that. But when they found out all the other stuff, it really, really made them arch their back a little bit more than they did. Also, my husband comes from a ethnic group that's called the Fulani. Sometimes they call them Fula. And he was born in Sierra Leone. His parents were born in Guinea. Each generation was born in another part of Africa. They were originally from East Africa, then migrated to West Africa. And when I was living there, I couldn't do my own genealogy. I was always in the chief face. The chief would tell me stories, and I'd talk to this person and that person, and they would tell me the stories. And I had quite a bit of knowledge of the African continent. And what happened is they told me they came from the east, and they were somewhere in the Nile Valley, but they started migrating towards the west coast of Africa around the 1400s. And so what happened is that a lot of things were lost, and they are a nomadic tribe, so they don't take the records and all of that. So how can you prove all of this, right? So anyway, coming to the present, I talked my husband into doing a DNA. And where the DNA usually can go back like 500 years or more, but the more ethnic groups that are in you, the more you get this mixture of you of this and that and that. But when you have somebody who doesn't have that kind of mixture, it reveals a lot. And so all this oral history about coming from the east coast of Africa to the west coast, many people wrote about that, so I was able to confirm it through many scholars. But when my husband took the DNA, he came up with that. And at that time, they had just taken a lot of DNA out of Egypt and had put it into the databases. And it was rumors that they came out of Egypt and all of this stuff from the East Coast, Nile Valley. His DNA came back that he's 305 generations of Ramsey. And also he has Sardinia, I might not pronounce it correctly, and that's coming out of Europe. And it's understandable because of the invasion. And that's basically, and he's Fulani, of course, that's basically all he has a mixture, because the Fullers didn't start marrying other ethnic groups until his generation. His sister was one of the first who married outside the Fullers, which was a big blow up. And so they don't have a lot of mixtures. And so it's like, wow. So I told that to my grandson, and my grandson is 9. And he just finished the 3rd grade. He goes to school. On Thursdays, I go to the library. He only wants to see Egyptian books. It transforms kids once they know who they are and what they come from. And I've seen it in so many children. And so what happened is that I asked them, I said, you cannot even read this. This is a higher level. He said, well, I'm going to look at the pictures, Baba. He called me Baba. I'm going to look at the pictures. And so, and he holds that, and he just is proud. So what I did before I discontinued my contract with the DNA company, I downloaded my DNA. I downloaded his grandfather's DNA and the other folks in the family that I had their DNA. And I put it in a book for him to keep. And this is, what you have. I have spoken to, I don't speak to a lot of children in genealogy, mostly teenagers and adults, and I teach also genealogy. But when I do their genealogy, one class I gave here in Alexandria at the Black History Museum back in 2014, the people who signed up for the class, the plus I gave them, I worked out their genealogy before the class started to a certain point. And so when they came and they were talking about their families and everything, I gave them what I researched, and they were shocked. It touched them in a certain way. And for African Americans and any a group or individual who are detached from their history, it transformed them. It puts them in another place, and it makes them really think. And many families I have worked with, that's where I explain to people, that's what I do, that I put families together. And doing that, it's a healing process. It's hard to deal with being enslaved or knowing you had enslaved people, but to be able to find and to put that piece back together, it's a feeling that many of them are not able to even analyze that until much later. And so that's why I do what I do. I enjoy doing it, and I have the ability to do it. And there's to bring families together. And not only that, it impacts the children, and I think it makes them a better person. Not to talk about something, to hide something, to push it under the rug. It keep coming to the surface. And it's to deal with what you have. And not only that, everybody have the good, the bad, and the ugly. I don't care what it is. I have had many white clients as versus black clients, and everybody got the good and the bad. And so nobody's different from that. It's just that I think as African Americans, you have an extra level of issues that you have to work with. And then you have nobody to talk to it about. You have nobody to help you go through it. And I'm not a therapist, but I am a diehard researcher, an investigative researcher.